Hello and welcome to Marketing Global Edition, where we wade waist deep today into the muddy waters of modern technology, surveillance capitalism, and the inner workings of Piers' paranoia.
Or genius insight, I would like to call it.
Judge for yourself, dear listeners. So you know that creepy thing that happens when you've been talking to a friend about garden gnomes or something, and an hour later you get served an ad for them on social media.
They are listening. They're listening on your phone, my phone, your mum's iPad. Anything with a microphone is potentially listening to your conversation, my conversation, anyone's conversation, and they're selling your data for targeted advertising.
Right, so you take us to today's big question. Are social media platforms actually listening to our conversations in real life and using the data for targeted advertising? Piers says yes, I say not exactly. And by the end, you'll probably agree with me, but you'll still cover your webcam with a post-it just in case.
Rubbish. Listen, we've all had it, right? You're talking about holidays in, I don't know, Lisbon, and then bosh, straight away, Instagram shows you Ryanair ads on flights to Portugal. Or you joke about needing a new pair of jeans or eating a dark chocolate or something like that, and you get served, TikTok serves you, Levi's videos, and you get, I don't know, chocolate ads. This happens.
Yes. It does happen to all of us. It certainly does. But Meta deny that they are listening. They say that actually their targeting for ads is so good that it seems like espionage, but it may be, for other reasons. Like, for example, you've Googled Lisbon hotels last night, or you've been scrolling through European beach pics for the past week, or, you were served an ad this morning about chocolate and it's going through your head. It's called algorithmic targeting. It's creepy, but it's not espionage.
I just don't buy it. It's just too specific. I once literally said I should buy some running shoes, just chatting to someone else. And within an hour, I got Nike ads. I hadn't searched for them, I hadn't posted them, I hadn't done anything.
So maybe your phone just sensed that you needed some exercise and wanted to help.
Very funny, very funny. But this is what people are experiencing. It's not just me, and lots of people talk about it. Friends, relatives. It's commented on in media. Millions of them. They don't come from nowhere. These stories.
So here's what Facebook have said specifically in response to the question about whether they are listening. They said, no, we understand that sometimes ads can be so specific, it seems like we must be listening to your conversations through your microphone, but we're not. We only use your microphone if you've given us permission and are actively using a feature that requires the microphone.
Well, that sounds like actually they could be, to be fair. But anyway, listen, Meta may deny it. But there was a company in the US called Cox Media Group, and they didn't deny it. They got caught in 2024 for active listening tech, sold to advertisers for $200 a day, and they promised access to real-time voice data from phones. They even had a slide saying, imagine a world where you can read minds. And Cox basically said, I'm quoting him now, we built it, then buried it. Please stop asking questions. The second tier like media group like that can do it. Imagine what Meta can do and are doing. Maybe do. Allegedly doing.
Allegedly. Please don't sue us. That was bonkers. Cox Media was so funny. But I do think it was a one-off. It's just not technically feasible. Like, imagine the warehouses full of humans listening for hours on end to our inane conversations. And even if you think it was, if it's AI parsing it all, just the data required to make it happen, right, would be so bonkers. So Antonio Garcia Martinez wrote a brilliant article in Wired magazine where he broke down what it would take in terms of data to actually make it happen. So Facebook would obviously have to record everything your phone hears while it's on, which is essentially like having an always-on conversation with Facebook. So assume that you talk for sort of half a day, right? Your phone is on, rather for about half the day. He did all these calculations. So he said, your average voice over internet call takes 24 kbps one way, which amounts to about 3 kbps of data per second. If you've got your phone on half the day, that's about 130 megabytes per day per user. There are around 150 million daily users just in the US, and that's about 20 petabytes per day just in the US, which is I think something like about as much as Facebook uses, all year. So technically it is just about possible, but in practical terms, it would essentially mean that it would use up so much data that it would be completely obvious. It's impossible to conceal that consumption of data on that scale.
Okay, so how do you account for the ads that everyone's talking about that relates to conversations they've just had?
Well, Meta doesn't need to listen, right? They're doing a number of things that are just as clever, but more legal. So I'm just going to run through them. Hope you're sitting comfortably. There are a number of really amazing things. We all know about digital breadcrumbs, right? So whenever you use your phone, you leave a trail of digital breadcrumbs. Things that you've searched on Google, your browsing history, other app activity that you've used, other purchases you've made online, your location where you are, what kind of device you have, all of these things. Actually, it's tracking. So if you've ever searched for something like, say you searched for hiking boots once on Facebook and then Instagram suddenly shows you camping ads, it's not because they heard you want to hike, it's because your search put you in a likely outdoors enthusiast category, right? There's another really fascinating thing called social graphs and networks. So say you're at a party and you're at a birthday party and you're talking to a friend and that friend has been looking for wedding venues. You may start getting ads for dresses or travel packages to do with weddings because Meta knows that you two are friends, and therefore whatever your friend is interested in, it assumes you might be interested in, right? Which is super interesting.
That's quite creepy, actually, to be fair.
It is. It's creepy, but it's not illegal and it's not the same as listening. Then there's also kind of the fact that the platforms use AI models trained on billions of data points to make very good guesses about what you'll care about next. So they look at patterns. If users like you with the same age bracket and the same area and the same sort of income level, life events show certain behaviors, you're predicted to follow them. They even factor in timing. So like if it's April, they figure you might be planning summer holidays, buying sunscreen. If you scroll burnout memes at 1 a.m., expect a weighted blanket ad because they can put things together in a clever way. Obviously, you know about retargeting. So we've all had that experience of like, you go to a shop's website, and then say you look at like a sofa online on a website, you don't buy it, you close the page, and then that flipping sofa tracks you around and you get ads for it for ages. That's retargeting, where, as we all know who work in advertising, we pay to keep showing our ad to people who have clicked on something but not bought it, right? So, and then there's all sorts of other things. The fact that the apps cross-track, so Instagram and Facebook talk to each other because they're owned by Meta, but actually they can also talk to Messenger and WhatsApp, who are also owned all in one kind of lovely, sort of Big Brother kind of data sharing Borg, if you like. And then there's something called lookalike audiences, where advertisers can ask a platform like Facebook to find people similar to their existing customers. So if you behave online like a brand's current shoppers, even if you've never heard of them, you might start seeing their ads. So for example, you may have never looked up organic skincare, but people who behave like you on Meta do. So you're added to a likely customer group. So it's really weird. And without even listening, there's something called like ambient and passive data. So without actually listening to your conversations, your phone can still detect things like nearby Bluetooth devices. So it knows if you're like in a gym that's got Bluetooth or a cafe. It can tell from Wi-Fi signals if you're in a shopping mall and from motion sensors if you're walking or running or driving. So all of that passive data helps build an understanding of your context, even when you're not directly using your phone. So if you're in an airport, even if you're not browsing, you might get travel-related ads, which feels weird.
That is kind of listening, isn't it? And there have been other examples of other players listening. So there was the Alfonso TV app scandal in 2018, right? So Alfonso was a company that develops tracking software for smart TV apps and games, was found, I'll tell you, using phone microphones to passively listen for sound cues like what shows or ads you're watching, and what music's playing in the background when you're gaming, right? So it's not about listening to your conversation, but it's still quite creepy.
Yeah.
And many apps using Alfonso's software didn't make it clear that they were activating the microphone, even when the app wasn't in use.
Yeah, that's bad. Was it a social media platform?
No, this was more of a ad tech company, data broker.
Right.
But it ran inside apps downloaded from Google Play Store, some of which had social features.
Yeah, that does sound really bad.
then
Yep,
then there
yep.
is TikTok, right?
Uh-oh.
They haven't been caught listening, but they are guilty of pretty much everything else, right? So TikTok have been investigated repeatedly for invasive data practice, especially around keystroke tracking, clipboard access, and biometric data. And there was concerns were raised in 2020 about how it may access microphone and camera data even when not in active use.
Did TikTok admit to it?
No. No direct admission, but US regulators have forced increased transparency from that. And now TikTok does disclose what data it collects, including voice prints and face prints in its privacy policy.
Okay, so no hard evidence of mic spying, but really uncomfortable, permissions and sort of nation state anxiety. I know, America's very concerned over, China's ownership of it and so on. But no hard evidence of mic spying, Piers.
Listen to me. It's not just the big apps. Sometimes it's the smaller apps, yeah? Alfonso TV, they listen for jingles and background noise to track what ads you'd see in kids' games.
Yeah, okay, not conversations they claimed, just ambient surveillance.
Ah, so that's all right then, you think?
No, it's a massive cautionary tale, but it is not the same as Facebook listening to all our conversations on a massive scale.
Yeah, but so many people have had the same kinds of experiences I've had, and I feel we're still being listened to.
But that's because the targeting is eerily accurate, and it's because our brains are wired to notice coincidences. There are millions of times we've talked about stuff and it hasn't popped up on Facebook, but our brains are wired to go, ooh, that's interesting when it does happen. And, because permissions are vague and data flows are opaque, it is really easy for platforms like Meta to use really smart targeting that's not actually the phone listening to you.
And because sometimes they actually are listening.
Yeah, okay, maybe not Facebook, maybe somebody like TikTok. All right, dear listeners, what do you think? Are they listening?
Okay. Look, to wrap up, I feel Meta probably not listening. Okay, I'm sort of buying your argument and so forth. TikTok, I'm afraid, dodgy, not secure. And Cox Media, absolutely caught red-handed. So there you go.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Okay, so we think Meta doesn't need your mic. It has your metadata, your moods, your memes, and your mate Dave's kayak purchasing behavior. So it doesn't need to listen. It knows all about you. So, you can rest easy.
Well, I'm going to put my smartphone under my pillow and tape over my webcam.
Yeah, don't forget your fridge. It's probably connected too. All right, everybody. This was Marketing Global Edition. Thank you very much for being with us. See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Marketing Global Edition is sponsored by 𝐒𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐬, the ad generator for small businesses that serves you effective and affordable ads in seconds. And by 7 Brands, the international advertising and branding agency that has worked with clients around the world from Coca-Cola to Facebook.